What is up guys, Max here, and welcome back to another tutorial. Now in today's tutorial we'll be learning how to make this crazy text that is popping up on the screen right now with lines and stripes and an outline and flickering on the screen. Pretty sweet, right? But we're going to make it in After Effects, so let's get started. So first off, as always, we need After Effects open. And just to break down this text, what does it look like? Here it is. So it kind of flickers onto the screen in this cool, decoded way, I guess. And then after that, you can see that there's the main text on top. There is a striped background and this outline that is not exactly an outline. It's kind of like there's a gap between the edge. And what's really cool about this is when we make it, if we retype this, tutorial, yeah. It'll actually change the text with the way we made it. So it's not set to one piece of text. You can make it anything you want and change it. So let's get started. So first off, as always, we need a new composition. So in your project panel, right click, new composition. We're gonna call this Dope Tut. Looks pretty sweet to me, right? So width 1920 by 1080, frame rate 60 frames per second because it's animation, and our duration is around 10 seconds. Click OK. Now next, we need some text. Go to your text tool at the top here, and let's type out Dope Tut. Now I'm using a font called Chunk 5. I'll leave a link in the description to download that font. It is a free font and it's really, really awesome. So click this, let's move this layer into the center somewhere. Little button right here gives it our little bounding box. Let's scale it up, hold shift on your keyboard to make sure the scale stays, normal. And then, yeah, there you go. Dope Tut, ready to start getting animated. So the first step in this process is to right click the text layer and pre-compose. We'll call this change text here. So we always know this is the composition where we change the text. And the next step in the process is to actually duplicate this composition. So let's Command D on our keyboard to duplicate this composition. This layer right here, let's change it to a red layer so we can see the difference between the two layers. Then what we'll do is go to our effects and presets and type fill. And we'll just drop a fill onto this layer below it, which will change it to red, which is what we want. Then we'll grab this layer and move it over a little bit, kind of like its own drop shadow. But what's really cool about this, if you don't already know, is if we actually double click into change text here and retype this, go back to Dope Tut right here, which is our composition outside of this, it changed the text behind it. Which, the way After Effects works is if you just duplicate a composition, it didn't really copy it, it's like a mirror image. So whatever is inside is still one thing. So both things have been changed, which is what we want. So back to Dope Tut. Now what we're gonna do is actually create the stripes that we see in the original art. So what we need to do is actually go up here, grab our rectangle tool, and drag out a little rectangle. Just drag it out, doesn't matter exactly what it looks like. It's really up to you. This looks pretty good to me. Grab our anchor point tool right here, click on the layer, grab our anchor point, hold Command on our keyboard to put this anchor point somewhere in the center. And you'll see why we're doing that in a minute. So inside the shape layer, under contents right here, go to add, and let's go to repeater right here. So this is gonna repeat the shape over and over again for us. Drop down our repeater properties and go to copies, make it a ton of copies, like go crazy with the copies. And let's offset it a bunch, kind of towards the back. So when we offset it, it's not starting 1, 2, 3, 4. It's kind of like in the middle somewhere, which is what we want. Let's go to transform repeater right here. Let's give this layer panel a little more look. Take the position and actually scoot these together. Pretty close together for the artwork. Looks pretty good to me. What we need to do now is actually click R on our keyboard and rotate this shape. Now that's the reason we put the anchor point in the center. So when we rotate, it rotates around its anchor point, which is what we wanted. Now I think we can actually make this shape a little larger. So let's click S on our keyboard to open up the scale option. Unclick this little chain link thing so we can actually manipulate the scale without proportions. So let's scale this up on the Y-axis a whole bunch to cover up the entire artwork. Looks pretty sweet. I might make this a little skinnier like this. Looks pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with that. I think it looks good. So let's go to fit so we can actually see this artwork a little better. Now the next step is to actually take shape 1 and drag it between change text here, these two layers. So it is now on top of the Dope Tut below it. Now the next step is to go to change text here and adjust your track matte options. Now if you don't see the track matte option, just in your layer panel right here, there's a big gray bar, right click, columns, modes, which will open up your track matte option. Now let's go click down on none and go to alpha matte shape layer 1, which basically what this means is change text here is this shape right here. I want this layer to only show through what is on top of it, which is the gray bars we created, which now the red text is only showing through the gray bars, which is really awesome. Now the next step is to take change text here and Command D to duplicate it. Puts a layer right here. Let's drag this layer down to the bottom, which fills out the text again, which is what we want. Let's change the fill color on change text here to, I don't know, let's do orange to match the original. And then go to the fill color on the next layer above it of change text here and change it to blue, which will change the bars to a nice blue color, which is kind of like the original color we had before, just this orange a little bit, a little brighter. Now let's click R on our keyboard again and actually rotate this shape a little more. So it's actually a little bit like that. Now what we need to do is actually make these bars move. Really simple. Our shape layer 1, click P on your keyboard. Let's add a keyframe on the position. Go down all the way down to 10 seconds and just move it over some. Kind of like that. So it's actually moving as it's sitting there. Well, looking really awesome so far. And yeah, sweet. Now what we need to do is actually create that outline stroke that we saw that's kind of has a gap between this and all that good stuff. So what we're going to do is actually highlight all of these layers, right click and pre-compose. Let's call this dope tut underscore pre-comp to keep it really organized. Boom, really awesome. Now, if you think about it, you could just right click, layer style and stroke, which adds a stroke, but the problem is that there's no gap. We need to create that gap somehow. So what we're gonna do is actually duplicate dope tut pre-comp. So Command D to duplicate it, change the color to, I don't know, red, and then Command D to duplicate it one more time, change that color to, is there a blue? Aqua? Nah, yeah, blue. Sweet. Now there's multiple layers of the same thing. So let's hide the top layer for now. And what you would normally think to do is you could use some kind of track matte option with strokes to reveal a stroke that is only one-sided. So let's scale this up, this stroke right here, and then right click the bottom layer, layer style stroke, and change this to, like, I don't know, blue, and stroke it up even larger and use an inverted track matte to show that stroke. But the problem is track matte ignores layer styles. So that's not gonna work. How do we fix this? Let's get rid of these layer styles we just created. Turn the track matte off to none. What we're gonna do, actually take both of these layers. We're gonna right click the red layer, go to pre-compose, dope tut pre-comp, stroke 1. Now dope tut pre-comp, right click this one, the blue layer, dope tut pre-comp, stroke 2. Now, if we create the strokes inside of these pre-comps, the outside comp will ignore the fact that it's a layer style because it's inside the composition. So, double click dope tut pre-comp stroke 1, right click the layer, layer style stroke, a nice red stroke. Let's make it about 12 in thickness. Right there. Jump back to dope tut via the options up here. Double click into dope tut pre-comp stroke 2, right click layer style stroke. Let's change it to a blue stroke just to kind of match the theme. Keep everything organized, and let's change it to about 30. Looks pretty good to me. And go back to dope tut right here. Now, if we use the same option with our track matte, like alpha matte dope tut stroke 1, this layer is only showing through the layer that is on top of it. We don't want that. We want the stroke on the outside to show. So alpha matte inverted matte, or alpha inverted matte, which now, if you turn this on, the layer below it is only showing where it's not being covered up. But this has a thicker stroke on it, which is this red stroke. And if we turn on our top layer, we now have that red stroke gap that is hiding the layer below it, which looks really awesome. Now the next step is to grab a fill, put it on this bottom layer, and change that fill to a white. So the stroke on the outside turns white. Now you don't actually have to do that. You could always take the stroke on the inside of this layer and change it. Instead of blue, you can make it white, but I just did it this way. Now next what we're going to do is highlight both these layers, the stroke layers, and we're going to parent it to our top layer. Let's change the top layer to red so we know it's the main layer. And so if we actually grab this top layer and move it around, dope tut, all that stuff follows it, looks really awesome. If we jump over to our change text here and call it change or whatever, jump back to dope tut, our art has been changed. Really sweet. If we jump into dope tut pre-comp, and I don't know, move these around a little bit, you know, it all changes the stuff, which is really awesome. Now, the next step is to make that flickery looking text, which is fairly easy actually. So what we're going to do is jump into here. So dope tut pre-comp, double click to change text here. Now let's animate this text. Really simple. So go to your effects and presets and type typewriter, which opens up this little option. Let's drag this onto our layer, which automatically creates this like typing on effect that we see on the text. Really simple. What we'll do is arrow down on the text, arrow down on this, arrow down on animator 1 to show our keyframes from the typewriter right here. So range selector, and we can see that it actually already creates something like this. So we'll scroll back in time and actually delete these keyframes and make sure that your start is at 0%. Sweet. Now, what we're going to do is actually go to our offset right here and type -100%. And then click the stopwatch to create a keyframe. Let's scroll down in time to, I guess, about 3.5 seconds. It doesn't matter too much. And then type 100% on our offset to actually create something new, which creates this like fluttery, flickery effect, something like that. Pretty cool, huh? Now what we're going to do is click down on our advanced options and go from here. And now next is we're going to change our shape option right here to ramp up, which is kind of cool. Which it kind of fades it on, which is what we want. The next what we're going to do is change the randomize order to on, which now it will fade on randomly, which is what we want. Now let's change the random seed to about 29, 30. I don't see a huge difference in this, but I like to add it anyways. And then now what we need to do is go right here on animator 1. If you scroll over, you'll see add property character offset. So add property character offset. And let's change the character offset that pops open now to about 20. So when we actually fade it on, you'll see that the characters have offset from the original, and they find their way to be the original right there. So that is how you quickly add a character animator on your text. Pretty sweet, pretty awesome. That is about it. Now you have this really awesome text. As always, you can retype this text. Let's type my name, and it'll always be animated. This is kind of like your own little preset you've created, which is really cool. And if you retype it, as always, it changes into its own version of something new, which is really awesome. How about that? So, now, as always, once we finish this, just to give you a little more insight, what's really cool is what I would do is I would go in here and actually change this font. I don't know, I have a bunch of different fonts besides Chunk 5. Let's scroll down to something kind of cool. I don't even, Cold Night for All, what is this? That looks pretty wicked. Now let's change it to something else. But you can see once you make this file, it's pretty cool. You can do some pretty cool options, pretty cool effects. I'll be using it a lot more in my videos. This font called Dry Brush I found on thefont.com is pretty cool. Go back to the final composition. I think that looks pretty sweet. Really, really awesome to have in your videos to make something really awesome. As always, feel free to download this project file, take a look, figure it out, and make something really, really awesome. Now, before we finish up, I want to go ahead and show you guys a template file that I built around this art style. So let's jump over to the color master composition, and we can see already there's a bunch more stuff going on. So we have the original file right here, which is this, final composition, which is really cool, but I did a little more work on the animation, and I actually created a couple different text layers. So there's this different font that I'm using right now that kind of, it goes in like this. Another option where it kind of like, you know, it flickers on like the original. And another option where it actually scales each one of the letters as they go in. So if you were doing something really cool with this, instead of the original with some different font, which is really awesome, you can go in and make something really awesome like that for your videos. Other than that, there's this really, really sweet transition file inside of here. So it scrolls up like this, and then it scrolls out like that. So if I were to have, you know, some kind of background in here, something like that, let's say a picture right here, and then another picture, something like this. It scrolls up, covers up the original picture, and scrolls up one more time to reveal the next picture, which is kind of a cool transition. Really awesome. But the coolest part about this template file is it's all controllable. So let's go to our color master and really quickly jump to our color controller and completely change all the colors inside of this project file. So right now we can see that the main text is white. Let's change it to, I don't know, blue. Now the stripes are also blue. Let's change those to green. Let's change the stripes below it to black. And let's change the outline color to red, maybe? I don't know. Some kind of cool color like that. Yellow. I guess that works. Doesn't matter. Turquoise, some weird color like that. Then we have our background colors. Let's change this square to a darker color. Change this color to that. You get the picture. It's all controllable, really awesome. And there's a slider for changing your stroke width, which is really sweet. So feel free to download this template file. It goes a long way in supporting this channel and making more videos, more free TUT files, and more template files. So feel free to show some love, give some support by downloading this file. As always, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.